Hello, I'm Ashley Thomas, and here is my review of Joker, directed by Todd Phillips. This movie, I didn't originally want this movie. I didn't want a Joker origin story when it comes to film, because I just loved how you didn't really know where this character came from. You know, his mysterious past, and I think it's one of those aspects of the character that made him so iconic, and that, you know, it sort of added to how much you would fear this character, how dangerous this character was, because you just didn't quite know where he came from, why he's doing what he's doing, and, you know, sort of his past is quite murky, and I just love that mystery about the character. So, I love the Joker. You know, he's an iconic villain. I love the character and just sort of studying this character. But when they announced they were going to do an origin story based on, you know, where he came from and why he does what he does, I was like, no, we don't really need this. I don't want this. But we got it anyway, and Todd Phillips directed it. Now, I haven't seen any of Todd Phillips' previous movies, so I didn't really know what to expect when it comes to Todd Phillips as a director, but here we go. Here are my thoughts on Joker, the origin story that I didn't originally want. So first, I just want to talk about the cinematography in this movie, the look of the film, the visuals. Beautiful. This is a beautiful movie to look at, to watch, to experience. The cinematography is just stunning. To the moments in which you got Arthur Fleck on his own in the apartment or on the bus, which is in the trailers. The visuals, every frame in this movie just looks beautiful, and again, just sort of says so much. There's so much going on within each scene of this movie whenever it comes to soundtrack, which I will go into very shortly. You know, like the visuals, and a lot of this story is told by not relying so heavily on dialogue. Like, of course, there's dialogue within this movie. You know, there is a script. You know, people do talk, but the story's not just driven by the dialogue, by the script. It's told through the score, the visuals. There's just so much going on within each frame, within each scene of this film, that says so much that you could keep watching this movie over and over and over again, and you'll find something or you'll see something new every time you watch it. And that's how sort of deep and very layered I felt this experience was. So yeah, for me, the cinematography in this movie, the visuals were just gorgeous. And Gotham, the way they brought Gotham to life in this movie, I loved. It felt very real, like they achieved the same in the Dark Knight trilogy, and they do the same here. But this is a different type of Gotham. And this actually felt a little grittier and dirtier. And now, one of my favourite aspects of this movie, which I just previously touched on, and that's the score. The music in this film, like its cinematography, is just beautiful. I adored the score and how the score was utilised within this film. It's haunting at times. It also sort of nerve-wracking because you know something's about to happen. And that's what I mean by the film uses many different tools, many different aspects, many different sort of ways of how to tell the story. And the score plays a big part in that. And there's two comparisons. It sort of reminded me of Jaws. So when you got the classic Jaws theme, you know, the dun 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 dun. That's a very poor rendition from me of that. But you know the shark is about to come. Now, they also did it in The Dark Knight with the Joker, with Heath Ledger's Joker. They did the same thing with the score within that movie, and the Joker or something was about to happen involving the Joker. And so they sort of do the same thing here, and I just loved it because it was very striking, and it would help put you on edge and sort of help add to the tension. I really fucking dug the score in this film to a point where I am definitely going to get it. I'm going to get it on disc and I'm going to get it on vinyl. It was a beautiful score, but what I really admired about it was how it helped tell this story on what was going on within Arthur Fleck, played by Joaquin Phoenix. It sort of tells you the story of almost what's going on in his head at that time, and I just loved it. And again, when it comes to those moments where it makes you believe that any time and any moment he's just gonna do something, and it just, like I said, it just helps put you on edge. And that leads me into Joaquin Phoenix as Arthur Fleck, the Joker. His performance in this movie was phenomenal. He is absolutely amazing. He's mesmerizing to watch. He's very hypnotic to watch. He carries this film. Now, this film is titled Joker. It's about the Joker. It's a character study. You know, you're really getting in underneath this character's skin and finding out what's going on in his head. And just through his performance, just through the subtle sort of things that he would do with his expressions and how he moves his body and just the way sometimes he just sits there, everything about him. There was just so much going on with his performance, so much detail. It was just incredible just to watch him play, just to watch him portray this character. It sort of just, again, helps suck you into this story. And there's a few moments within this movie. They show a few they show those moments in the trailer as well. And it's like sort of like of Arthur Fleck sort of almost dancing in sort of like a slow motion. And it's just like a very sort of slow dance. And I loved it. I thought, again, going back to how they use different sort of elements to help tell this story. There were moments within this movie where Arthur Fleck would just do this dance. You know, whether it be down the steps or, you know, sort of the one you see in the trailer where he's in front of the mirror. Says so much without uttering a word of dialogue. And I loved that. I loved how they used dance within this movie and for the character Joker. I thought it was beautiful. So let's talk about the violence. I have read that apparently people have got up and left the cinema when the Joker first kills someone. I don't quite understand that. People have complained about the violence in this movie. I don't quite understand that, but I think that's a discussion for another time, another video. What I thought with the violence in this movie is this film is not filled with violence. There's very few moments, and they're pivotal moments within the story where you get that sort of, that violent moment, if you want to call it that, that bloody scene, that gory scene. And when you do get it, by God, it's brutal. Like, you feel the moment. You feel that sort of... I don't want to say too... I'm trying to not say too much. I really don't want to spoil anything. This is not a spoiler review. But when you get that death... So say when the Joker does kill someone, you feel it. Because it is brutal. And I just loved how they did it. The build up to the moment. The way they utilised the score. The visuals. Everything that leads into that moment, just, it worked, and it impacts you, and that's what it's supposed to do. That's what cinema is supposed to do. Like, I believe this, I have watched a review from Stuckman for this, and he said something in it which made me laugh, and it's like, what do people expect the Joker to do? Tickle people to death? And I laughed. He made me laugh. Because, yeah, it's like you know, everyone knows this character. Everyone knows that this character, the Joker, has got issues. Okay, this film just really delves into those issues. And, you know, obviously you're going to get violence that accompanies those issues. So it's like, you know, that's part of the Joker. That's the Joker's character. So, yeah, I felt like Joker was a very well-made movie. Directed elegantly by Todd Phillips. And this is a Joker origin story that, for me, works. And is probably the best version of one that we will get. You know, this comes from someone that didn't really want this movie. As soon as it was, I didn't want this movie. As soon as they announced it, I was like, no, don't want it. And I felt they did a fantastic job at this. An incredible job. I think they made the right moves, they made the right decisions on how to do this film. And I adored it. You know, it's a character drama, it's a character study on why someone may end up down a path like the Joker. It felt very real, and I thought they handled, like, when it comes to sort of the sensitive subject matter like mental illness, I thought they did a great job at handling that. I also loved how they mislead you quite a bit with the story, so you feel like it's going down this certain path, and you're like, and there was a moment where I was like, oh, really? And then all of a sudden it takes a complete U-turn, and I was like, oh, that actually makes sense. Brilliant, loved it. It was really good in sort of misleading you as well, and I loved it. And I think a lot of people will probably fit, there was this one moment in the story, and it's, you know, it's a twist, and I think a lot of people are going to think the same thing, and it's going to be like, oh, are we really going down that path? And then it sort of takes a complete U-turn, and it's like, ah. Yeah. And, like, again, this is a spoiler-free review, so I don't want to say too much, but how they connected this story, Arthur's story, with the Waynes, Thomas Wayne, and the way they handled that was beautiful. For me, it resulted in the perfect conclusion. And that's all I'm going to say. How they sort of connected Arthur Fleck's story with the Waynes, for me, resulted in the perfect conclusion. And I'm not going to say anything else about that. Talking about conclusion, what a tense experience that is. The final 20 minutes of this film will just have you'll be so tense, and you're grabbing the arms of your chair. It was like, whoa. It was amazing. Absolutely amazing. And people are going to come away from this film with their own conclusions, with what happened. The way they sort of the way they did the movie. And I love this. It sort of makes you think. It's a film that makes you use your head and go and dissect this movie. And that's why I think you could go back and watch this movie over and over again, and you'll take something new away from it, or you'll see something that you didn't see the first time, or the second time, or even the third time. And that's what I loved about this movie. It's very layered, very deep. And I've been thinking about this movie for days. I seen this film last week, and it's only, I've only now am I getting around to actually doing my review. But I've come to my own conclusion, and I've still only seen it once. Potentially that conclusion could change with the second viewing, but I've come to my conclusion. And I think everyone is actually, when it comes to this movie, entitled to their own conclusion. Like, what Todd Phillips was actually aiming for is never 100% certain, and I bloody love that. I absolutely adore that. This is a Joker origin story that I never thought we would get. It's the best version of it I feel we may ever get. Not that we need another one. And I didn't originally want this, but thank you, Todd Phillips, because I think you did a magnificent job. Joker, for me, it's an important movie that I feel everyone should watch, because it does a good job at reflecting on what's going on within our society. And again, adds to how real this story feels. Now, they do a good job, and this is mainly down to Joaquin Phoenix as, portraying this character. They do a very good job in not having you really sympathize for the character, to feel sorry. Because what he does, obviously what he eventually does, is bad. He does bad things, and the Joker becomes, an evil. He is an evil character. So there is this very fine line to walk. And this goes back to me saying how I thought they handled the themes such as mental illness. I thought they did a very, very good job with that, in not crossing that line. And that a lot of that was down to how Phoenix portrayed this character and his performance. And it did, even though you could see the reasons into the build-up to those moments, and to some degree I think people are going to relate not only to his character but to other characters within this movie when it comes to the sort of the boiling point and what sort of when this character tips. What the character goes through throughout this entire movie, throughout this entire story, is a tragedy. And there is this very sort of this very thin line which they're walking on. And I think they just did a great job at balancing that. It's a tragedy, and you got this character, and throughout this duration of this film, it's not and this is one of the things they handled beautifully as well, and that is the transition from Arthur Fleck going into, ending up as the Joker. The way they did it wasn't just you got Arthur Fleck, then all of a sudden something happens, and then all of a sudden it's a Joker. It's a very slow burn. It's a slow burn, a very slow, gradual sort of build-up to that. And the way they did that was just fantastic. And it's a lot of little different things, little aspects that happens during this character's journey. Like Heath Ledger's Joker says in Dark Knight, all it takes is a little push. And there's a lot of those little pushes dotted throughout this story, throughout this character's journey. And that leads to him becoming the Joker. And it's tragic. It is a tragic story. And it's impactful as well. So, yeah, I just think they handled this story and its themes in the best way possible. I think they did a great job with it. So yeah, it's a very important movie. A movie that, like I said, reflects our, our society and a lot of its issues. And yeah, I think people need to see this movie. I think it's very important. It's a beautifully crafted movie, directed elegantly by Todd Phillips. The score is just stunning. The cinematography, the visuals, how they told this story, how they brought it to life. It's just one hell of an experience, and all of those elements, every single element within this movie, how they crafted this movie, just makes Joker, for me anyway, a cinematic masterpiece. I will be giving Joker a 10 out of 10. I never thought I'd be giving Joker 10 out of 10. It was one of my anticipated movies of the year. It was in my top 10 most anticipated movies of 2019. But purely because I didn't feel like we needed this story. That it was like, even though I was really looking forward to it, to see what they did with the character. Because the character, I love the character of the Joker. He's one of my favourite villains along with Darth Vader. There was a part of me that was thinking, well, you're probably going to get an okay movie. We ended up getting a masterpiece and the best version of what I think could be, when it comes to film anyway, a story about the origin of the Joker. And I think for this to have worked, they needed to make it feel real. That they needed to infuse it with real, deep themes. And as a result, I think this is one of the reasons why the film works, why the story works. So yeah, thanks for watching. For those that do watch, I really appreciate it. And if you just want to follow a geek from Wales, talk about film, TV, and just everything geeky, then why not hit subscribe? And I'll be seeing you guys soon.